a game changer in a lot of cities.
And we're live.
We
Once
are
again.
live. All right. Well, let's explain to everybody what has happened. All right.
Hi, everybody. We're back on Facebook Live, and we appreciate you being with us. We had just a little technical problem. And, you know, what I learned most from technical guys in broadcasting and in business is that if you have something that's not behaving correctly, did you turn it off and turn it back on
Did you
again?
reboot it?
And in this case, that was the solution to our problem.
Yeah, so we took kind of a mid broadcast break here to do exactly that, reboot it, and guess what? Everything works.
We're going to talk about security for a moment here. We have two gentlemen with us. One has been with us before, and another is new to the podcast from Active Solutions. Brian Fitzpatrick, who's the president of that fine company. Brian, thank you for being with us.
Good morning.
And Kirk Evans, you may recall, has been with us before talking about security issues.
Yeah, one of the things that we've been following in the news, and I don't know how many people have come up to Kevin, but I've had 4 come up to me talking about, and you see them all over the national news, these cameras, security cameras inside your home. Now, I think finally one of the Google Nests got hacked with one of these, but the Ring cameras, and you have the absolutely bring chills up your spine case of the child, and I believe it's in Virginia, who parents, for whatever reason, put a Ring camera in the child's bedroom, and it might have been Kevin, as a matter of fact. This beautiful voice says, "Hello, Susie."
Not that creepy.
You know, knows her name, and she says, "Who are you?"
Creepy, but not.
I'm your friend, and would talk to the little girl, and the little girl went and got her mom and talked to the mom, and then they had a Ring camera downstairs as well and talked to Mom. Oh, we're going to yoga, huh? Same thing with kind of a Nest camera. There have been cases like this. And how stupid are we as a society to realize that we put cameras inside of our house that are connected to the internet and that someone cannot hack them? Are we that dumb? Anybody?
I think we're just not educated in that type
Step
of
right up.
technology yet.
Get right up
There
on
you
that.
go. There you go. That's good. Now we got you.
There you go.
How's that?
That's
A little
good.
bit
That's
better?
good. You sound great.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
What I was saying is I think that society just hasn't been educated in the technology of broadcasting over the internet as we are right now. And there's so much equipment that you can plug in your home, set it to your Wi-Fi, and it's broadcasting, but it's broadcasting with the default password that the manufacturer put on it. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole lot more to this Internet of Things security that the world needs to be aware of. But in these situations, you put a camera in, and it has a very common way of addressing 600 million of these devices across the country, however many Ring and all these doorbell companies have deployed. Every one of them's accessed the same way. The only thing different is the password. If it has the default username in it and just a password, there's about 50 common passwords that everybody in the country uses. Unless you know to have a more sophisticated, a longer password, you try those 50 passwords and that username, there's a good chance you're going to hit on a large number of open cameras throughout the country.
What about if you're using like a bot to just alphanumeric, just start running passwords until you hit it?
Well, there are, they call them script kiddies, kids that have learned how to write scripts to do that sort of thing here in the United States. And worse than that, they're state-paid or state-supported hackers around the world from other countries that are actively doing this.
Now, do you guys mind if I mention brand names here? Because the one I'm seeing on TV a lot is called Simply Safe. And Simply Safe is a wireless system, and it's got, some good features, I think, like, let you know if your windows have been smashed or opened, let you know if your doors have been breached, that sort of thing.
You can get leak detection for those people that have basements and things.
But it also features internal cameras, looking at the action going on inside your house. And if I think somebody can hack into these cameras from outside, I'm going to think twice about Simply Safe.
It's a real problem. I don't know enough about Simply Safe to comment on it, but I can tell you that the majority of the manufacturers have really noticed what's going on with these incidents that you've talked about, and they're forcing the installers. Sometimes, majority of the times, you bought it at Home Depot or Lowe's. You brought it home, you plug it in yourself, you've gone through the instructions. It's fairly simple. but they're changing their firmware so that it forces the person installing it to put in a more sophisticated password, a longer password, something that's a harder credential to
Brian, if you don't mind my
guess
asking,
that.
why would that be an afterthought after they put the product on the market?
Would you rather?
I mean, speculate
Would you
for me.
if you were the manufacturer, would you rather sell more products, or would you rather make it harder for people to?
It's about security. I'd rather it be secure.
Well, let's make it a little more global.
Unfortunately, the shareholders didn't think of that when they made their investment.
Let's make it a little more global. We have Ring cameras it's basically the doorbell type cameras.
Sure.
At our two doors. So we get notified if somebody is at our door, and I can yell at them through the speaker, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
I won't put an Alexa into our home. I won't put anything that listens and responds to voice commands that's connected to the internet. I just won't. And I don't think it's because I'm paranoid. I think it's because I'm smart. But I was out of town this past weekend, major city, and they had another one of these cases where someone's inside Ring camera. Oh, and by the way, the Ring cameras were suggested by our homeowners association, and they got us a special deal. So we all bought ours through our homeowners association, and they delivered them to our door, and I'm sure that they've got all kinds of default passwords in them and all that type of thing. But the homeowner, and he seemed like a nice enough fella, I just wanted to catch this guy. Truth is, they're never going to catch the guy that's talking to his wife over her camera in her living room, are they?
So one of the fellows that I did
You've been an investigator and a cop. You're not going to catch him.
So ultimately, I can just tell you, I have done a little research on these cases you're talking about, and specifically, one of the gentlemen who was hacking into these cameras, he lived in Canada somewhere, and he basically said he was just showing the capabilities of it. However, I'm a father, and I don't want anyone showing me the capabilities while they're looking at my children in my home. I can assure you. So one of the things I will tell you, and I would like to comment about the security companies that are putting these cameras in as well. There are different versions of these cameras. So there are other protocols called, for example, Z-Wave and some other wireless protocols that talk to each other that are not IP based, right? So for me, if you're gonna put any wireless technology in your home, definitely get with a professional and someone who can help you on that line of thinking. Not an IP-based wireless internet type of device that someone can grab. It's my humble opinion that I would not put a wireless camera in my home at any time, any place ever. There are hardwired cameras. They still have IP addresses, and they are talking to the network, but you can secure them, as Brian mentioned. You can take those extra steps, and ultimately, Brian alluded to it. Ultimately, that's probably exactly what's happening. They're installing it. It hits their phone. They say, "Oh, look, I can see it," and they're done. And it's got the basic passwords in it.
Now, can these systems be incorporated with a VPN, a virtual private network? I mean, so that you're a little safer from this?
These devices connect back to your Wi-Fi.
Right.
I have not yet seen one that can create a VPN from the camera to your Wi-Fi, but where the problem that we're discussing now is coming in is from the internet back into your router, where this thing has actually tunneled through your router, through your firewall essentially, and provided an open door for somebody with the right username and password. So they just have to know how to get to you. And if this person is outside of the country, like this guy in Canada, we probably have extradition rights and we can go after somebody. But if you've got somebody in Afghanistan doing this, there's nothing you can do to them.
And if he's smart enough to hack into a Google Nest camera at 148 Cherry Street in Fairfax, Virginia, he's smart enough to cover his tracks to where you could put a whole team of investigators on him. And what crime has he actually committed? What are you going to charge him with?
Well, let's talk about
Well, it's
that.
voyeurism.
Well,
Video voyeurism is a crime in the United States.
Absolutely. However, let's talk about what's really happening. So the fact that you now let him into your network, yeah, he can see you, he can see your children. We don't want that, right? But he's now getting into your computer. He's actually seeing all your other passwords. He's now in your network, and I can tell you that would probably be not worse than looking at your family. However, you may have to deal with some real financial issues when someone drains your bank accounts.
And Kirk's hitting on the crux of this issue is you've got a device that's on the private side of your network, the protected side. You've got a firewall in your router that protects most data from coming into your network. If a device, the Internet of Things is exploding. We're going to see hundreds of millions of devices throughout the world.
Oh my God, I've seen a makeup mirror that talks to the internet for crying out loud.
And it's going to be municipal Internet of Things, everything from meter readers for your gas and water and electric meters in your homes to things that tell you where an empty parking place is. But there's so many devices coming. But the residential Internet of Things has really hit hard, and the market is maturing quickly. But you've got devices that were made in other countries that don't necessarily abide by the same laws that the United States do, and these devices can be a bot inside of your network. These devices can be turned into something that not only sniffs what's going on in your network, as Kirk was talking about, they can also attack things outside of your network. All these Ring devices, I'm not saying Ring is, but a device similar to that could be programmed to wake up one day and attack all of the financial trading and all the banks in the United States websites to where we cannot get our bank accounts. You can't trade. You can't manage your money. You can't manage your finances. It can become a serious problem.
Well,
and if the manufacturer of the chips inside of it's not even the firmware, it's in the chips, embedded in the chips to where we can't find it until somebody wakes it up. And if you're at war with another country that made that chipset and they have that embedded in there, we've got problems.
Well, and this is something that I think people are just starting to explore. Kirk told me about this several months ago, that it is something that everybody needs to kind of look at. I don't know that everybody has woken up. Now, to shift gears away from what happens in home, one of the reasons we have you guys here is you guys are doing something exciting for municipalities. You are developing and installing and putting together systems that basically help us respond to emergencies, fight crime, and all that on a municipal level. Can you give us a little bit of the basics of what you're doing?
That's what excites me every day. It's probably the most rewarding job I've ever had. What we're doing is basically a force multiplier for law enforcement.
Okay.
Rather than having to have a police officer on every corner like New York City, a police officer behind a series of monitors can respond to a 911 call on any corner where one of our cameras has been placed. And then the camera is also a communications hub for all the Internet of Things that a municipality would deploy within range of the wireless devices in that camera. So rather than having to pay for the Internet of Things data stream back to their data centers, the municipalities use their own wireless device, which is on the pole within one of our camera pods, one of our Safe City or Smart City cameras, to normalize or level out what their costs are going to be to start deploying all these millions of municipal Internet of Things devices that I was talking about. But when we first went into this business close to 20 years ago and developed these first crime cameras, we filed over 60 patents on the original technology. We didn't have any idea the far-reaching effects that these cameras were going to have. We just thought we were going to give the police eyes. And the reality is nobody sits and watches these cameras all day long. You couldn't possibly do it, and the chances of finding something happening are few and far between. But being able to have a 911 call come in, have it spin up that camera, show a map of where the camera is, show you what the traffic is like in case you have to reroute emergency responders, show you a GPS coordinate of all your emergency responders around there for hazmat and fire and police that need to respond to this. And these people can be routed more effectively to respond to your 911 call. It lowers the mortality rate, so we have a lower death rate. It increases your chance of solving the crime because you're getting there a lot sooner. And then beyond that, what we really didn't expect was this neighborhood revitalization. That when you take the drug dealers off of a street, the homeowners are painting their homes and getting them back into commerce. They're not hanging out on the sidewalks. The little kids that the drug dealers were handing the drugs to go play in the parking lot or play in the playground with it in their pocket until someone would come up and hand cash to the dealer, and then he'd point to the kid on the playground to go get the drugs. These kids aren't getting the $20 bill at the end of the day for muling the drugs. They have to go get a job, or they're playing like kids should be, and it's cleaning up the neighborhoods.
What I think is interesting is that you also have eyes and ears at the scene of something happening. And
Well-
it doesn't have to be a firearms incident. It could be an actual fire.
Absolutely.
And so,
Size of the fire, who's there, what vehicles are leaving.
and can they, because of the way your technology works, can they communicate with themselves within the Wi-Fi range of this camera, so that they don't have to do everything through dispatch? Can they communicate directly if they're on the scene?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The cameras have wireless equipment inside of them, so they can become part of a municipality's wireless intranet or their local network. So if one of their police respondents, an ambulance pulls up, they can actually use the wireless equipment inside of these devices to get their data back to the hospital.
Now, a lot of municipalities are struggling with their fiscal picture. Is this a relatively affordable system to put in place?
It's extremely affordable. I mean, when you compare it to what it costs to have a police officer out there with a patrol car, it's dramatically less expensive. When you look at what the long-term costs are in prosecution, if you have video evidence to show to the accused and his defense lawyer, and it's irrefutable, you're not going to house him for a year in the local prison. They're not going to bring it to trial 6 or 7 times and have it continued. They're going to plea bargain, and that kid's going to get off the street, and he's going to get some help. He's going to hopefully be in an educational program in wherever he's incarcerated, and learn a trade or learn not to do what he did on the street. So you're not only saving the money of the gathering evidence, you're saving the money on prosecution, you're saving the backup in your court system, you're saving having to give this guy meals in a cot for a year. So it's an enormous savings to municipalities.
So can I interject? For example, in very fluid numbers, have you seen one of these trailers with the cameras on them, and they kind of move the trailer around?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For the price of one of those, we can put about 5 of our cameras up 5 different places in the city. If that.
And it runs wirelessly, so you don't have to build any infrastructure.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Also, I did want to mention.
Plugs into a streetlight.
Yeah. The Blythe issue, we were just this week at the Louisiana Municipal Association's conference. The governor spoke. One of the main topics was how are these cities dealing with Blythe? And the speaker that was giving the talk about the proper steps you can take to do these things, one of the main things they said was put up crime cameras. It's a direct, all of the mayors are seeing it, all the councils, all over the state of Louisiana, they're seeing a direct, responsive attention to when they put the cameras up, the city starts cleaning up.
Well, and I know in a lot of other cities, they put flashing red and blues on them so that everybody's aware that there's
That's our cameras.
Those are your cameras?
Those are
Okay.
That's something that I was vehemently against. I think it's totally obnoxious, but a criminal psychologist explained it to me. He says, when you see that red and blue light, there's something visceral happens in your brain.
You're going to walk
And
away.
you're going to do the same thing with a car. Car. You see the red and blue lights, and you're going to behave yourself.
Yeah, I know I did something wrong, and I slow down. But what's really interesting is that even when I get off of a roadway and I see the red and blue light that I know is one of my cameras, I sit up straight and think, oh wait, what am I doing wrong? So if that's happening to someone that's about to commit a crime of passion, which a lot of murders are, they're not just, oh, I'm just going to go shoot somebody tonight. You did something to me, I'm mad at you, I'm going to come back.
Out come the guns.
And shoot at you and possibly kill you. That's a crime of passion, and it only happens when it happens. And if I see a red and blue blinking light over my shoulder, I'm going to think twice, because I know if I can see that light, that camera can see me. Mm-hmm. and has my face recorded doing what I'm about to do, and that'd be a really stupid thing to go kill somebody in front of a crime camera.
Well, about an hour and 15 minutes ago, sitting at the table behind you, was our district attorney. And he started lobbying 5-6 years ago, maybe more, for shot spotter cameras. And I think we only have like 4 or 5. You know, we put them in places
Some of our
where
worst
there's
neighborhoods.
high incidents. But to actually have a complete network in a city the size of Baton Rouge, I think is something that everybody involved in government and homeowners and business owners would really like. Give me an idea of Baton Rouge. How many, I don't even know if this is the right term, units would it take to have a complete network here?
Depends on the level of accuracy that you desire. The shot spotter technology comes from the U.S. military. They were made to go on Jeeps or on military vehicles, determine where people were shooting at them from.
Yeah.
And what they do is they give you an elevation and azimuth of the shooter very accurately. Echoes have the system has a real problem with echoes. So when you're firing a gun near a very hard surface, that sound is coming at those microphones close together. We're actually developing a new technology in New Orleans at Active Solutions that's going to solve that problem and dramatically lower the cost of deploying a gunshot detection network throughout the city. And it's going to be a twofold type system. And I'm letting you guys in a little bit on something that's in our R&D lab
Let's
right
not
now.
give away any trade secrets here.
It's nothing spectacular other than we've figured out a way to make it a lot easier and a lot less expensive for municipality to deploy. It does have one device on each of our camera, a Safe City camera, that redirects the camera in the direction of the gunshot. Now, the chances of the camera being within a couple of blocks of the gunshot and actually capturing the gunshot aren't as high as the other devices that we'll be deploying around town that gives us multiple azimuths to triangulate in on where that gunshot occurred so that the emergency responders can get there much faster and hopefully save somebody's life if they've been shot.
What I find interesting is that people in municipal governments come to people like you and say, how do we get into it? What does it do for us? What will it cost? How can we deploy it? And almost immediately after that, you have groups that say, wait a minute, I don't want you spying on our people. And I can't reconcile that notion, since the technology has been proven to lower an individual's chance of being harmed by a violent crime of any time dramatically by just the very presence of these devices. I mean, you must hear this all the time.
The last vehement complaint that we had was from a citizen. I won't tell you what city she's in, so we're not accusing anyone of anything, but
What's it rhyme with? Just kidding. Go ahead.
your initials. But she complained and complained and complained about this crime camera that was put up outside of her house, and come to find out that she had blown up her kitchen about a month prior, cooking
meth.
So, yeah.
So I'm not saying that anybody complaining about the cameras is criminal, and I certainly understand the issues with the blinking lights outside of people's homes, but I would say it's better than the 80-20 rule. It's probably 95-5 that when we put the cameras up, people come out of their homes and hug my technicians that are out there putting the cameras up. They're actually creeped out about it because there's some big bad looking dudes come up and get right up in your face, and then they put their arms out, and then they want to hug you and start smiling and thank you for saving their neighborhood. But our guys are starting to get used to it.
And let's talk about the positive, right? Look at the terrorist things that happen in London and that they're solved the same day because there's cameras everywhere. Look at the murder rate dropped in the city of New Orleans due to our cameras and the New Orleans Police Department working together. If you haven't seen a crime center of what it can look like now, which I don't think we currently have in the Baton Rouge area, but if you walk into New Orleans, you will see banks and banks of cameras. So when there's an incident, somebody has their eyes on that incident immediately. Even though there might be an NOPD unit 17 blocks away, somebody is seeing what's happening. They're letting the NOPD, and as a former law enforcement agent, I can't tell you how much it would have been incredible to know how many people had guns on the scene, how many people were fighting, who was throwing rocks, who was doing what. It's not only allowing us to be better in law enforcement and more prepared, it's also saving some of the law enforcement time. So, for example, and I was sitting in the crime center in New Orleans, and they showed us how, for example, there might be a vagrant who's in the quarter and he's accosting people, right? And he's dressed just like Bill Perfetti. He's got a blue shirt on, and so
Damn, Bill.
yeah, right. So what occurs is there's a unit maybe 14 blocks away, and they're on another call. So they're there for 20 minutes. He goes 10-8. Hey, I'm heading towards that call. Hold on real quick. They turn the cameras. Look, is the vagrant still there? He's gone now.
He's not there,
He's
yeah.
not bothering anyone. He's moved on, so they just missed the call. Now that unit can go properly patrol and stop other crimes. So it's a tool.
Well, you probably heard this, being in the business you're in, but I was going to mention London because they're widely credited with being the first city to have a big net of surveillance cameras.
That's true.
And during that incident on London Bridge, I guess that was in early December, late November, there you could actually see one of them trying to hide from the cameras because they were dispatching people in real time because the cameras saw what was going on and they could react to it. And that definitely changes the paradigm for the bad guys, for sure.
100%.
We hope they all hear this. Hopefully they're all
Now,
listening to the show.
Under the current structure of federal and most state laws, all this evidence is admissible in court,
Absolutely.
so there's no problems there.
No reasonable.
So there's the only-
there's
the
no
only-
reasonable expectation of privacy in the place
So the
where
only
they are.
potential problem is people just feeling uncomfortable having cameras looking at them all the time. But my God, that's already the case. I mean, I read somewhere that at least 9 times a day in my normal travels about town, I'm captured on a video camera someplace.
Being captured right now.
I'll bet you. I'll bet you that in some cities, guys and women that want to hook up for money are going to have to find different places to do it.
Well, like I mentioned
Well,
earlier.
that's another benefit. If you've got cameras in areas of town where, the women are out walking, you can cut down on vice and things. I mean, I see all kinds of benefits.
There are a lot of vectors that are affected by this, but I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, the real-time crime center is not truly that. It's a safe city center, and it's designed to respond to emergencies that are happening in a municipality. The study was done over in Europe a number of years ago that a human being's ability to perceive something on a computer monitor is depreciated by 50%. I think it was every 10 minutes that you're watching it. So after you've watched the same video for about 45 minutes, they had this group of people in this study. They had a guy in a gorilla suit dance across the scene, and then they went back and asked all these people, what about the gorilla? And they're like, what gorilla?
Yeah.
None of them noticed gorilla because your brain can't possibly focus on that and perceive everything going on. The reality is we can't sit and watch cameras in one of these monitoring centers staring at people. Nobody's being watched. I mean, if you are actively dealing drugs and there's an investigation going on, there's a good chance that somebody may be checking your camera out every once in a while. But if you're a normal citizen conducting normal everyday life and not doing anything heinous, nobody's looking at you.
Well, and to be very clear, if it's your loved one who was murdered underneath a camera, or there was footage of your loved one being murdered, you certainly would be happy there was a camera there. Someone could be convicted.
We're almost out of time, but I see that the website for Active Solutions is very simple, activesolutions.com. If a layperson visits the website, I mean, do you have a lot of information on there? Or?
A lot of information on our municipal camera systems, our access control systems we do for industry and commercial.
Now, I know you're probably targeting an audience of municipalities and things like that, but I mean, sometimes municipalities respond when the individuals bring a little pressure to bear on their
That's right.
their
That's
local
exactly
lawmakers.
what we're hoping for. All you
So,
listeners,
get a better
thousands
system.
and thousands of people are going to be calling their council people this afternoon and tell them to call us.
And I would be remiss not
Thank you.
to make it clear that we are all of our products are on state contracts. So all the municipalities, the state government, anyone in Louisiana can buy directly off state contract directly from us. They don't have to go to bid. They don't have to do all those
The
things.
lowest prices have already been established.
That's right.
Well, it's fascinating stuff, and I'm sure we're going to have you back for an update
Oh, we'd love to come
as
back.
more and more of your systems get deployed. I guess I can ask this very gently. Is there any interest in East Baton Rouge Parish for your products at this particular time?
We are currently in talks through other vendors as well. So there's a lot of handshaking that has to be done as far as different types of systems, if
I
that
get
makes
it,
sense.
yeah.
So we have some of our vendor partners who are talking to Baton Rouge as well as us currently.
Excellent. I know a lot of people in our law enforcement community are very, very big on the type of technology, and they have used the term force multiplier many, many times. So hopefully they will be amenable.
Well, another big one that we didn't even speak of is the license plate reader cameras, which is a tremendous success.
Is that you guys as well?
in our
Absolutely.
community. And that's, being able to have a watch list of stolen vehicles with attachments associated with the license plate number, and knowing that you've got someone that's a criminal, even in a commercial situation, coming into your parking lot, very helpful in limiting the losses. It's all about risk management, loss prevention.
Well, we thank you both for being with us, Brian Fitzpatrick and Kirk Evans. And the company is called Active Solutions. The website.
.com.
Yeah, .com will do it. And I do like what you have to say on your logo. We make your world safer. You're doing good work. We appreciate you.
We're trying
see you,
hard.
Kevin.
Thank you,
Thank
gentlemen.
you so
Brian,
much.
pleasure
Appreciate
meeting you,
your
sir.
time. For being with us, gentlemen. Now, on Friday, we're going to talk about people that are going to be making your world a little safer as well. St. George Fire Department, they respond to all kinds of calls, not just fires. They respond to medicals, both traumatic medicals like in car accidents, but also in your home. And they are adding a new medical response component to St. George Fire Department. They will be coming to talk to us about that. And State Representative Paula Davis joins us on Friday as well.
Always be good to talk to her. She's now your chairman of your House Commerce Committee.
Excellent.
Yep. So we'll be talking about that and a whole lot more. And we thank you so much for joining us today, and hope you'll join us again on Friday morning, 8 o'clock, from La Divina Italian Cafe at Acadian and Perkins. Pay us a visit at La Divina sometime soon.
Best breakfast in town.
And lunch and dinner.
Indeed.
Tell Lance that the Exile sent you.
There you go.
Have a great day. Take care.